Alright, before you come at me about the thumbnail, I want you to take a long, hard think about this year's lineup compared to the last 2 mob votes. Yes, only 2, because these don't count as mob votes, they're biome votes. The mobs came as a package, a bonus. They came with the biome. We weren't voting for the mobs, we were voting for the biome. Even the first ever mob vote had a better selection than this year's, and that's surprising for a first time. The first votes had interesting mobs, each with their own different use, a purpose, something worth mentioning, and then we get to this year's vote. Look at the lineup. We have a floating bush that hates the darkness, we have a light side Vex, and we have another golem that just pushes buttons. But they're not even the size of a player. They're the tiniest mobs ever, and yes, we can probably find them all in caves. The golem we will obviously have to craft, but they're just tiny. Not as tiny as my cousin's cack, though. So that is what the premise of today's video is, just me spreading slander about each mob because I hate them all. So starting off, we have the Glare, practically a floating moss block with eyes, and it shows you dark spots where mobs can spawn, because as in the new update, hostile mobs will only be able to spawn in light level 0. After the Glare finds these spots, it'll throw a hissy fit. This mob's job is to find dark spots, and yet it hates the dark. This whole mob is the embodiment of a contradiction. It's the definition of a contradiction, and it's practically useless. Nobody's ever going to really use this mob if it gets voted in, because first off, to Java players, it is 100% useless, because there's a built-in feature to the game called F3 that allows you to see light levels, so this thing is pointless. And to Bedrock players, we really don't need this, because we can see if there's a dark spot. You know, even Java players don't need F3. They can see the light. They can see if there's mob spawning. Whatever. Alright, there's a mob right there. Throw a torch, kill the zombie, whatever. Easy peasy. I can see where Mojang thought they were going right, but it didn't work. The creativity was there. The execution, not so much. Next up, we have the Alley, probably the most useless out of this whole vote, and that's really not saying much considering how useless the Glare is. I feel like the biggest reason as to why people love this mob so much is because they're not understanding its features. And they're giving themselves their own type of meaning for this mob. Everything people think this mob can do is wrong. People think the Alley can mine blocks and open chests to retrieve items, but that's not how it works. You have to give the Alley an item, and then it flies around looking for items like the one you gave it that it is already dropped. You can't give it a diamond and it goes to mine diamonds. You can give it a diamond and then it'll go pick up all the other diamonds that you threw on the ground for whatever reason, but it can't mine diamonds and it can't open chests to find the diamonds. Same with all other items. And that is why this is the most useless mob out of this whole thing. I can just go pick up my items myself. It's not difficult. This thing is for lazy people. There is literally no real purpose or use for this mob, and there's really not much else to say about it because that's how shoddy it is. It is the worst out of this whole vote. Yeah, it's cute. It's a new mob, but cool. There's no purpose. There's no use. It is pointless. And I'm going to lose my shit if this is added to the game. Like, this mob truly makes me think that Mojang made this mob vote last second. I get it, they've been stressed, they've been working on an update, but these things aren't even in the game's code yet. So I don't understand what would be so difficult about coming up with a concept of actual good mobs. I feel like they just sat down one night, like, okay, we gotta do this. Minecraft Live is coming up in 2 weeks. And they just threw some stuff together. It's like they procrastinated and were like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's just half-ass this whole thing. We don't need a mob to pick up items for us. We can do it ourselves. The alley is senseless. Alright, the final mob in this vote is the Copper Golem. Now, I do like this mob a lot better than the other ones, but tragically it is also very useless. Some cons about it, though, in my opinion, are it does oxidize over time, and I think that's pretty cool because it's like a part of history. Whenever you're walking by an old base or something, there could possibly be copper golems, just old ones. I think that'll be pretty cool, and it adds a new use for copper. And if it gets added, I do believe that we get copper buttons, which isn't really needed, but it is nice just to have some new things and a new use for copper. Now, I am hoping that, like the other golems, we are able to craft it with a pumpkin, but I have a feeling we won't be able to do that. And I'm also confused on how we will make the golem because it's pretty small. It's not big, it's not medium like the snow golem. It's just small, just like the other mobs in this vote. Basically, what this mob does is it presses buttons, which is also very useless. And there's no protection aspect like the iron golem. There's no usefulness. It's just a tiny little copper block that presses buttons, and like if there's a button nearby, press. Oh, there's another one. Press. Just that's all it does. Its whole meaning in life is pressing buttons, and my buttons are already pressed from this whole vote. Now, when voting does come around, I will be voting for the golem. I'm not just gonna not vote. I'm gonna pinch in. Out of all of these mobs, I want the Golem because it's definitely the coolest out of the others, and it might have more use than the other ones as well. Maybe it could be good for redstone. I don't see why it would be, but it could be. So we'll just have to see when it gets added or if it gets added. Well, that is it for my slander today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, leave a dislike if you want to. Subscribe if you're new to the channel or if you haven't already. And leave your guys' decisions in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Anyways, see you in the next one. Goodbye.